We've been offering an analogy recently, a way to look at this that is helpful to many people. And so we're going to give it to you here. And even if you have heard this before, you will hear it differently now. This will be easy for you. Imagine some subject like physical well-being, or like not enough money, or like whatever, and assign a stick to that subject. And put that stick in the pile that holds all the sticks of all the subjects that are currently important in your life experience. You may have heard us telling this story to you before, and we've said on one end of the stick is wanted, and on the other end of the stick is the absence of what is wanted. And then we've said to you sometimes, and it can be very effective, find a stick in the pile that you aren't having a problem with. And instead of focusing upon the stick that you're trying to solve the problem, focus upon one of the sticks in the pile that isn't a problem and focus on that. Well, that can be helpful to a certain extent. Esther does that all the time. She remembers one day when the neighbor's dog came into their then chicken yard and made a lot of trouble and hurt some chickens and even killed a chicken or two. And we said to Esther, focus on the chickens who are still alive. And she was really annoyed with us for a moment. But as soon as she turned her attention to the well-being that still existed instead of the trauma that had happened, she got the sense of what we were talking about. And it's sort of like, focus on the chickens that are still alive in this stick pile. Focus upon the aspects of them that they feel the best to you. But today, we are going to modify that stick process in this way. Instead of putting the label on the stick, in the middle of the stick, meaning money, have it or don't, wellness, have it or don't, relationship, have it or don't, what is wanted or lack of it. Instead, let's put the label on this stick way down there on the physical, manifested way I'm used to looking at my physical life end of the stick. On that sort of practical, this is what's going on, this is what you said to me, this is what I didn't like that you said to me, this is what's happening. Put the label on that end of the stick. So on the end of the stick where you've written money, on the other end of the stick, you don't write more money, you write something that is an emotional thing, that is a step 5 thing, that is your inner being's point of view. And so instead of money, you would write something like freedom. Or instead of money, you would write something like flexibility. And because you're writing flexibility or freedom or autonomy or choices, then you don't challenge the other end of the stick, and it's less likely to be active. And so you write awareness, you write well-being, you write all is well, you write ease and flow, you write understanding, you write collecting data, you write something that you can easily feel that doesn't activate the end of the stick that you want to deactivate. You see, this is the interesting thing about creating. When we ask you to tend to your point of attraction, what we're asking you to tend to is your vibration. We're asking you to tend to your vibration, which means we're asking you to tend to your relationship between you and your inner being, which means we're asking you to tend to your relationship between you and your inner being and everything you want, which your inner being is already focused upon. So, do you think that your inner being is focused upon, why don't I have enough money in my bank account? Or do you think your inner being is focused upon your physical autonomy, your physical balance and well-being, your physical all is wellness? And so what you're wanting to do is find the inner being end of the stick on these subjects. And when you find the inner being end of the stick, which is always general and it's always secure and it's always achievable and it's always attainable, we're not asking you to find the path of least resistance. We're asking you to find the path of no resistance. Oh, the path of no resistance. Because the path of least resistance, there's still resistance. And there's a pretty good chance that when you're finding the path of least resistance, you're going to find some resistance as you're looking for less resistance, but it's still some resistance. And sometimes looking for the path of least resistance leads you into a little bit more resistance, sometimes into a little bit of less resistance, a little less resistance. But it would take a long time for you on these subjects that really matter to you to stay focused long enough. And frankly, we love you so much, you don't have the time or the focus or the concentration power to stay focused upon that path of least resistance, if it's strong resistance, to get you very far. We love you very much. We don't want to hurt your feelings. But there is an easier path to this. The path of non-resistance is the path where your inner being already is. There's so much momentum already there. Your inner being has been practicing it in what terms you would call forever. Your inner being is non-resistant, and your inner being is aware of you, and your inner being is aware of everything that you want. Your inner being is aware of all of the cooperative components that are in your vortex. Your inner being knows who you are and feels who you are. And when we say tend to your point of attraction, we mean tend to your point of attraction where you are in perfect harmony with what you really want, with who you really are. You see what we're getting at? A while back, and Esther demonstrated it for friends the other day, we encouraged Esther to take a piece of paper and in one corner write something that was representative of good things she wants. And in the other corner of the paper, we asked her to put a symbol that was evidence or an indicator of things unwanted. And then we asked her to make herself a dot right in the middle of the bottom of the paper. And then we asked her to just begin daydreaming. And so she thought a thought that was in harmony with all the good things she wants. We just began drawing a little line from where she was in that direction. And as she thought more, then more. And as she thought more, then more. But eventually, and quicker than she would want to admit, but it was perfect and fine, she got somewhere where she thought a thought that started to go off this way. In other words, it was a action thought, a what I need to do thought, or an old belief thought. But because she had some momentum already going that way, in the moment that she started to go that way, she caught it and then thought a better thought about that, and off she went again. And then another thought sort of tried to take her over there, but she caught it and thought a better thought, and off she went. Now this is another way. In other words, you can, if you're in a good feeling place and you are sensitive to the way you feel, you can think the thoughts deliberately. You could meditate and get tuned in, which would lead you to blissful thoughts. And then you could receive an idea that just feels really good. And for a moment in time, you could be right there. But what trips you up is you don't want to just be there in energy or in emotion. You want the manifestation. And in the moment that you begin the efforting, that's when you begin moving in the other direction. If we could convince you that everything you want is because you want to feel good in the having of it, then if you could let the feeling good be the singular intention that you have, not uplifting the world, not fixing things that are broken, not making the world a better place, but just having a really good time being the bright light that you are. Yeah? You've been studying about energy, and you're studying about vibration, and you're studying about receiving, and you're studying about focusing. The thing that is so interesting is that you get what you think about whether you want it or not. But sometimes something will happen and we hear you say, well, I wasn't thinking about that specific thing, so how did that specific thing come into my experience? Sometimes you are thinking about that specific thing and that specific thing comes. But what comes to you is the essence of what you are about. The essence of what your vibration is about. And so rather than spend any time trying to figure out why it came or what you did wrong that caused it to come, because there's no value in that whatsoever. Instead, if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would acknowledge that whatever we are experiencing is there because of our point of attraction. And rather than trying to figure out what specific thoughts we thought that brought it, we would just tend to our point of attraction. And so hear the difference, feel the difference between the statement, it is my intention to tend or focus upon my point of attraction, which is to say, I'm going to focus on how I feel. I'm going to reach for thoughts that feel as good as they can feel. I'm going to quiet my mind so that I can feel what it feels like when my vibration rises. I'm going to be aware when I'm in a feeling of appreciation or love, and I'm going to take note of that. I'm tending to my point of attraction. I'm tending to my vibrational frequency. Feel the difference in that. And why don't I have enough money in my bank account? Or why is this person that I'm attracted to not attracted to me? Or why can't I get along with these people I love? Because when you focus upon the things that are problematic and you try to think your way out of them, you don't think your way out of them, you think your way deeper into them. But in the process of thinking your way deeper into them, simultaneously you're also sending requests of what you really want into your vibrational reality. And so you could make up anything that you wanted. That never gets anyone anywhere. You don't solve problems by focusing on the problem. When you focus on the problem only gets bigger. It just becomes bigger and more obvious until it may reach a point that you may look at it and say, really? Now I see you. I saw you when you were little, and I kept looking at you till you got bigger, and I kept looking at you till you got bigger, and now you're really bothersome to me. But somewhere along there, we want it to occur to you now, and it is more likely for that to happen to you now than ever before. We want you to realize, say the words to yourself, I cannot get there from here. I cannot get to the bottom of something. I cannot solve a problem by focusing on the problem. A lot of people, they can't solve the problem, so they go to a specialist and they tell the specialist about the problem. Spiritual specialist or physical specialist. In other words, let's focus on this problem. Let's focus on this problem. And what we really want you to do is focus upon the incredible power of non-resistant thought, which means when you get your eye off the problem and on something else, we're not for a moment asking you to discard those thoughts. It's wonderful to get an idea about what you want to do. So we're not suggesting for a moment that when those thoughts come, that you shouldn't pursue those thoughts. Satisfaction comes from one place and one place only. Having an idea of what you want and moving in the direction of it. All we're asking you to be more aware of is when you are being a dream killer to your own dream. That's all. Don't be practical about your dreams. Because when you're practical about them, you try to put pieces in that you don't have yet. You are practical. You are humans. And it's the thing that Esther is most focused upon not focusing upon these days. It's the thing that she's most focused upon not focusing upon. She wants to jump into action too soon because the dream doesn't feel like it's enough, but it is. The dream is enough. And if you can dream it and it's enough, and dream it and it's enough, and dream it and it's enough, and dream it, it's enough, it will demand things of you that you can't not give it, but they will be things that are in harmony with the dream. The impulse will be so strong that nothing could keep you from following that. And that's the difference between receiving the thought and trying to think it into place. Did you get that?
I'm dripping, it's not